Welcome back to State of the FBS. I'm Micah, and today we're getting into ACC quarterback rankings. If you want to see rankings for the SEC or the Big Ten, those are out already on the channel, so you can go check those out. If you have been enjoying the videos, do make sure to subscribe because I'll have a bunch more stuff like this coming. Big 12 quarterback rankings coming up before the season. I'm going to have a top 25 poll, and then obviously the normal week-by-week college football recap and videos you expect from the channel. But let's get right into it with the ACC. Starting at number 16 at the bottom, it's going to be Wake Forest. Still a QB competition going on there right now. Charlotte transfer Deshaun Purdy and South Carolina transfer Robbie Ashford are going at it. Jake Dickert says it's pretty close between the two guys right now. As I record this, there's going to be another practice tomorrow on Friday, and apparently we're going to get more information on who the projected starter will be after that practice. But right now seems like an incredibly close QB battle. For Purdy last year at Charlotte, threw for 1,802 yards, 10 touchdowns, 6 picks. The EPA per play was not very good, struggled to complete passes at a reasonable rate. Did have a solid explosive play rate, though, so that was a strength of his game. The throwing just isn't quite there yet. Did originally transfer to Florida in the portal, somehow got the impression he was going to play over DJ Lagway. I don't know who, if anyone, told him that, but obviously that was not the case, so then went to Wake Forest from there. But yeah, main strength of this guy is the explosive plays. Even though he's not the best runner in the world, can do it sometimes. Contrasting with that is Robbie Ashford, who is a very athletic, very good runner at the quarterback position. Last year starting was at Auburn in 2022, threw for 1,613 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 7 picks. Added 710 rushing yards and 7 rushing touchdowns. This guy loves the number 7. Then spent a lot of time as a backup. 2023 was a backup to Peyton Thorne at Auburn, and then last year was a backup to Lenora Sellers at South Carolina. Did see some time while Sellers was hurt, but again, this guy is not much of a thrower of the football, but can run it very, very effectively. The completion percentage did take a huge jump at South Carolina last year in his time on the field, but also it was very easy design throws for him. This was not the real extent of the offense he was running at South Carolina. If I had to pick between the two, I'm probably sending Purdy out there just because I like his upside as a passer more than Robbie Ashford, and passing is kind of important when it comes to playing the quarterback position. But Wake Forest for now sits at the bottom at number 16. At number 15, it is Stanford with Ben Branson, graduate transfer from Oregon State. He beat out Elijah Brown, who took over time from Ashton Daniels last year, and then also UCF transfer Dylan Rizk. I do think he's solid, at least. This is kind of similar to what I said about Ethan Kaliakmanis in the Big Ten video, where he's solid. He can move the ball for you, but I don't think there's a lot of ceiling left in the player from what we've already seen. Missed some time in 2024 due to injury. However, did throw for 943 yards, 4 touchdowns, 4 picks, added a rushing touchdown as well. Frank Reich apparently loves this guy's experience. He's had time starting across multiple schemes in his years at Oregon State. That fan base really loves him. Apparently he's a doctor going for his doctorate degree, so super smart guy as well as Ben Branson. And I think there is a possibility he loses this job midseason. You saw it happen last year to Ashton Daniels when Elijah Brown got put back in, and I think you'd see Brown get subbed in once again through the middle of this year if Branson starts to struggle. But as they always say, if you have multiple quarterbacks, you have none. So I do like naming a real starter going into the season, and Ben Branson looks to be that guy for Stanford, although right now still going to be down at number 15. Up into the 14th position, it's going to be Dylan Lonergan of Boston College. This guy's an Alabama transfer, appeared versus Western Kentucky and Mercer last year and versus Chattanooga 2 years ago. He's a redshirt sophomore, and he beat out Grayson James for this job, who took over from Tommy Castellanos last year following a leg injury and then actually getting benched. So he has to be at least pretty solid if he's beating out Grayson James. Only is 7 for 8 on his career passing, threw for 23 yards last season, so this guy is not very experienced. However, I like some of the traits. Went back and watched some of his high school stuff. The arm is very good, and he's able to stand really tall in the pocket. Doesn't seem overly fazed by pressure. Now, that was on high school tape, so whether that transfers to being a starter in the ACC, hard to tell yet. But I do like a lot of the traits for this guy. He's a big dude, 6'2", 211. Not massive, but solid, at least for a quarterback. So with the arm he has, the ability he can create on the run. This guy isn't really a dynamic runner, but can extend plays when he has to, and I think he'll be solid enough for BC this season. I know he's a lot less experienced than Gulbranson, who I have him over. I just like more the traits. I think there's a higher upside with Lonergan, and so even though the Boston College situation isn't great, I am going to have him up here for now, and also transferred to go join his former offensive coordinator, Bill O'Brien, who used to be at Alabama, so I think that relationship will definitely help him out as well. So Dylan Lonergan at 14 for right now. Up to number 13 is the Syracuse QB room. It's the duo of Steve Angeli and Ricky Collins. Angeli is a redshirt junior transfer from Notre Dame, threw for 268 and 3 touchdowns last year in relief of Riley Leonard. He does have a great bowl game experience, or great bowl game performance, against Oregon State a couple of years ago in the Sun Bowl. Absolutely diced them up. I believe threw for over 300 in that game. Very experienced player, should be a safe option for Syracuse if they want to go with him. As for Ricky Collins, redshirt sophomore transferring from LSU, only threw for 35 yards last season, but that's because he's not playing over Garrett Nussmeier. So I get him wanting to go for the change of scenery. Very dynamic player, very raw player, but has some great traits if you can get him developed a little bit. 6'2", 210, twitchy athlete. I love the way this guy moves in space, especially for a quarterback. He really pops when you turn on the tape. I like his ability to create on the run. I will say the one weakness that stood out, if you go back and watch some of his high school stuff, does get panicky under pressure. So you would hope that doesn't transfer. You can get that developed out of him a little bit. But I personally like the idea of starting Collins because if the quarterback battle is still this close, Fran Brown apparently is impressed with both of these guys so far, and it's too close to call. So if they're that close, I think Collins has a big enough athletic upside to where I would send him in over Angeli, but we'll have to see what happens. Again, as I record this, decision is not made, might be made this Saturday after practices wrap up, but I am not sure which of these guys is starting for Syracuse as of right now, though Fran Brown apparently wants to see which of these two players can really take a leap as both a leader and a passer. He wants to see a guy that's going to be vocal and help out the team from that quarterback position, which I think is completely understandable. Although both of these guys I think will at least be solid, whoever gets in there. And as I said, I like the upside of Collins a little bit more. At number 12, it's going to be California, and it's not Jaron Kiawe Sungapulitele. For right now, it is Devin Brown looking to be the probable starter for the Golden Bears. Ohio State transfer, last year threw for 114 yards, 1 touchdown. Obviously was not playing over Will Howard, but this guy does have some things to like. Was very, very close to being the starter over Kyle McCord at Ohio State a couple years ago. The Ohio State coaching staff seems to love this guy's work ethic and attitude, so that is definitely a plus going for this guy. And if you're going to let Sungapulitele sit behind him and learn, I think Brown is a great guy to learn from. Really smart player, really good at processing. I wouldn't say he has any elite traits, really, but he is just going to take care of the football usually. I know had the rough performance versus Missouri in the bowl game, but I think that's a hard situation to chuck out a guy for one of his first starts in college football. So I still like Devin Brown. He's a willing runner, tough player. Unfortunately, he's getting banished to the Brian Harsin offense, which is not known for being entirely friendly to players, we'll say. Brown can also struggle with dealing with blitzes sometimes, and then once he gets backpedaling on a blitz, his arm really isn't big enough, and so you end up with underthrown balls sometimes. But still, very experienced player, even if not an experienced starter. This guy has seen a ton of college football over the course of his career, even if it is from practices and from the huddle. So you are going to learn from that. And like I said, very smart player, and Cal has loved what he's been doing in camp so far. So Devin Brown and Cal at 12 right now. At number 11 is Tommy Castellanos of Florida State, and this is a guy that's definitely made some headlines recently, although I don't know if it's for the right reasons. Last year at Boston College, threw for 1,366 yards, 18 touchdowns, 5 picks, added a rushing touchdown with it, but 2023, he had 1,113 rushing yards and 13 rushing touchdowns, so the upside with the legs is definitely there. Struggled with a leg injury a lot of last season, then ended up getting benched. So I think he is a much better runner than his stats from last season show. He's a very dynamic player. It's just, can the passing get more consistent? Not always the most accurate player, not always making the correct reads, but I'll say at least he's confident. Had the quote about, oh, well, Alabama is not going to be able to slow me down at all. They don't have Nick Saban to come and save them, which that's a bold strategy. We'll see if it pays off for him. Shout out dodgeball. I do think looking at last year, getting benched for Grayson James is a bit tough, although apparently the relationship with that coaching staff and Castellanos kind of broke down. And if that's the case and he's having issues like that, I don't know how strong the relationship with Mike Norvell and the Florida State group is going to be, especially if this team struggles to win games early. Apparently, he's looked very inconsistent in camp. So even though I love the dynamic ability as a runner, and I think there is something to like with his passing game, there's just too many red flags here right now. So I'm going to keep him down at number 11. Moving up to number 10, it's CJ Bailey of NC State. And I feel like this is where we really start to jump into guys that I really think can play well this season, and I like as players. CJ Bailey last year as a true freshman threw for 2,413 yards, 17 touchdowns, did throw 10 picks, added 5 rushing touchdowns and almost 300 yards on the ground as well. The thing that jumped out to me immediately when I turned on the tape of CJ Bailey was, oh my goodness, this guy is one of the longest throwing motions I've ever seen. However, he seems to make it work. The ball does jump out of his hand, even though it takes about 8 years to get out of there. And last year took over for Grayson McCall after he retired from football after the injury at the start of the season. Just brutal luck for NC State on that front. But as for Bailey, he's a very good improvisational player and should only continue to develop. You never like to see guys regress backwards, but it sometimes does happen. However, I don't think that's going to be a concern with Bailey. His processing seems to be good. The one thing I do like about him is he knows his limitations as far as the length of that windup. So he'll take off to run. You'll think, man, that's an early decision to run. But then you realize if he would have stood in there and tried to throw the ball, he's not getting it out because he just can't. His release and throwing motion isn't quick enough to make it happen. So there is a slight downside of sometimes these plays break down than maybe would if he had a quicker release, but still is very good on the run. He looks kind of like Slender Man on the run a little bit because he's so tall, so lanky, but he makes it work. He's very athletic, a dynamic player, and the passing upside is very good. He had a great stretch last year. It was versus Syracuse, at Cal, and versus Stanford. I know not any elite defenses there per se, although Cal did have a great secondary last season. Through those 3 games, threw for 869 yards, 7 touchdowns, just 1 interception, and really excelled at reading defenses and standing in, playing well under pressure. I think if you can get the version of CJ Bailey from those 3 games, NC State has a lot to like. And with him being so young and only a true sophomore, I think the sky's the limit for him. He's 6'6", 213, absolutely massive guy. If he can put on some more weight, kind of get a little bit more in him so you have some less injury concerns, I think he's going to be an absolute stud. Up to number 9 is Miller Moss of Louisville, and let's get out of the way. This guy was benched last season. Benched for Jaden Maiava down the stretch at USC. Threw for 2,555 yards, 18 touchdowns, 9 picks, added 2 rushing touchdowns. And we've seen the Jeff Brom system rehabilitate some journeyman quarterbacks before. Look at Tyler Shuck, got him drafted in the 2nd round somehow. But still, Miller Moss, there is stuff to like. The arm isn't world-beating, but it is solid. The accuracy has been a little hit or miss, but when he's on, he is a very accurate, really reliable passer. And I think if you can get that version of him at Louisville, kind of don't ask him to do too much. You have a great running back room at Louisville, so let him lean on that a little bit and become a little bit more of a game manager rather than I have to do everything myself kind of guy. I do think Miller Moss is going to thrive in that situation. And this guy's going to be highly motivated after being benched last season. He wants to show what he can do. And with the Louisville system and his ability, when he's not kind of going crazy, I think he can settle down, be a reliable passer. And I think that's really all you're going to need from him this season at Louisville. So Miller Moss at number 9 for right now. At number 8 is Virginia Tech's Kyron Drones. And I thought this dude was going to be a surefire breakout candidate last season. I love the athleticism. I love the passing ability, the flashes he showed. I thought he was going to be incredible. And then he got injured about 7,000 times last season. Dealt with turf toe, an MCL sprain, and a stress fracture. Ended up having a, quote, minor medical procedure. Don't know exactly what that entails, but that's what Virginia Tech said, so we're going to roll with that, I guess. But like I said, had a ton of athletic potential. In 2024, threw for 1,562 yards, 10 touchdowns, 6 picks. And then added 336 yards and 6 rushing touchdowns with that. That's not a representation of how good this guy can be. I think when he was healthy, He didn't throw as many interceptions, was much more dynamic as a runner, and obviously turf toe is going to hurt that especially. But I think that there is so much ability in Kyron Drones. If he can harness it, come back, play healthy, get a little bit more reliable in the passing game. Sometimes he misfires, I'll be honest. The misfires are a problem for Kyron Drones, but when he is on, he can throw accurately. I like the arm. The arm is very good for Kyron Drones, and then, like I've said a million times, athleticism. And the dude's 6'2", 235 as well. He is absolutely built. He's a hard player to bring down once he gets going. And it seems like his confidence is incredibly high right now. Loving the new offense under Philip Montgomery up there in Virginia Tech. He seems to really be gelling with Montgomery, and everything out of Blacksburg so far says this guy is healthy and ready to go. And I hope so, because when he is, I think he can be one of the more dynamic players in the ACC. But I can't put him too high because of how last season went. Usually, if a player develops injury concerns, those don't tend to go away. I hope for his sake that he's able to stay healthy all season, but I just can't lift him too high because of the concerns. So for right now, Kyron Drones at number 8. Up to number 7, it's Chandler Morris. He started his career at Oklahoma before moving to TCU, where he started some games, then got injured, then lost the starting job, bounced over to North Texas after being injured, and balled out at North Texas. He was great for the Mean Green, threw for 3,774 yards, 31 touchdowns, 12 picks, added 4 rushing touchdowns. Obviously, you'd love to see the interception total get a little bit lower than that, but this guy's a gunslinger. He's going to let it rip. He is a creative player. He's not a guy that's going to just sit in the pocket and stand there and kind of be a tree, which I love players that can get on the run and make stuff happen. So, like the film on this guy. Tony Elliott here at Virginia, still looking for kind of a true breakout quarterback. You thought you were going to get a ton from Anthony Calandria, never really materialized. Brennan Armstrong seemed to be the new hopeful. Again, that never really materialized. So, now with an experienced quality quarterback in Chandler Morris coming in, can he produce in this offense? I think is a big question. I think if he struggles to produce and can't really get anything going, it's going to be kind of some tough questions for Tony Elliott in the offense then at Virginia. But I do hope he succeeds. I like Tony Elliott as a coach, and I do think that Chandler Morris has great upside. We've seen what he can do at the Power 4 level before. Was solid at TCU before the issues with the ACL. So I think if you let him just kind of do his own thing, I'd say this isn't a guy I want to restrict into an offense. Let him go out there. Let him play creative football. He can rip it. He's pretty accurate. Again, just the mistakes with that extender gunslinger mentality, a little bit too turnover happy sometimes. If you can just keep that a little bit down and let him really shine as a passer, I think he's going to be a great player. Is on the Davey O'Brien and Maxwell Award watch list, so country knows about this guy this year, and apparently is a good leader as well from what I've heard. So Chandler Morris at number 7 right now, probably the highest I've had a Virginia quarterback on these in a while. At number 6, it's Gio Lopez, the lefty at North Carolina under Bill Belichick this season. Last year at South Alabama, threw for 2,559 yards, 18 touchdowns, 5 picks, added 465 and 7 touchdowns on the ground. This guy's a dynamic player. The numbers aren't insane from last season, but he's still a very, very good player, I think. I like the upside of Gio Lopez. Always a little bit weird with a lefty quarterback. Your offensive line essentially has to play mirrored, have to learn a whole new way of blocking. So we'll see if the UNC offensive line can adjust to that. That unit's been awful the last few years, let's be honest. So hopefully Gio Lopez does not die in the backfield. But Bill Belichick really loves this guy. At passing academies he's been in, scouts are saying the football really jumps out of this guy's hand. I didn't exactly see a rocket arm on tape, but I trust the scouts' evaluation if that many are saying it. If it looks that strong in passing camp, we know it's there. Maybe it's just he doesn't like to really rip it during games sometimes. And at this point, I will admit, those scouts probably know better than I do. So I'm going to trust that Gio Lopez has the arm and he's choosing not to fully unleash it sometimes in these games. Although if you're going to fit in these tighter windows in Power 4 conference play, you're going to need to grip it and rip it. So we'll see what he can do this season. He does need big help from the receiving core. Isaiah Johnson and Jordan Shipp are really going to need to take leaps this year. And then freshman Adrian Wilson apparently is looking great through camp so far and can be a spark. So would love to see him really ball out too. It's a pro-style offense. You're going to have to learn a pro-style offense for sure at North Carolina this year under Bill Belichick. Is Gio Lopez ready for that? So far, he seemed like he's liking the adjustment and he's learning and really enjoying the new system. Did mention that it's funny to see pro players on the film that he's watching learning from Bill Belichick. So seems to be loving the situation. Very hyped up guy to the transfer portal. A lot of people wanted this guy and it ended up coming to Bill Belichick and UNC. I think he'll be a good player. Sits at number 6 right now. Into the top 5 now, it is Darian Mensah of Duke. One of the biggest prizes out of the transfer portal at the quarterback position. The Tulane transfer threw for 2,723 yards, 22 touchdowns, 6 picks last season. Added 1 rushing touchdown on the ground and 132 yards. But this guy's a better runner of the football than that rushing stat line would suggest. He just waits to scramble usually. He likes to let the play come to him. He's really good at extending on the run, but will wait to run usually. That's something I love in a quarterback. I love when you're more looking to throw on the move. And then if nothing's there, pull it down, run, get what you can, which he's very good at. He likes working over the middle. I feel like a lot of these guys' big plays last season were over the middle. The Tulane offense, too, is fairly friendly to run with that. And playing competition in the American Conference, your defenses aren't going to be as good. Had some great receivers in Mario Williams and Shaz Preston down there at Tulane as well. So the receivers aren't quite as good at Duke, I don't think. We'll see what he can make do with that group. But Duke pushed out Malik Murphy for this guy. And Malik Murphy has one of the strongest arms in college football, although couldn't always throw it accurately. It's like Diet Joe Milton. But he is off to Oregon State now. It's Darian Mensah's season at Duke. And I am interested to see how he adjusts to this new situation. Like I mentioned, the receivers aren't quite as good. Last year, you had a running back in Mekhi Hughes that was one of the best in college football. Don't really have that at Duke again, so it feels like there's a less talent around him despite him taking a step up in competition, and that's going to be a hard adjustment for a quarterback to make. He's just going to need to really be calm, and that's something he's good at. He doesn't panic versus blitzes a lot of the time, can stay looking downfield, is an on-time player, is going to make his reads and make the correct decisions. It's just, can he take that next statistical leap as a passer and really be consistent and accurate all the time? And can he do it in a tougher conference with less talent around him? It's a difficult situation, but I have confidence that he'll be able to produce in it. Darian Mensah at number 5. At number 4, it's Haynes King of Georgia Tech. This is probably the best runner of the football in the conference at the quarterback position. Is just an incredible runner, super tough guy, hard to bring down. Last year threw for 2,114 yards, 14 touchdowns, only 2 picks, added 587 yards and 11 touchdowns on the ground. And my favorite thing about Haynes King is he is allergic to turning the ball over. Just flat out does not do it. Only 2 picks the entire season. Very secure with the football. Love that out of a quarterback. If you don't turn the football over, you're going to win a lot of games. Like I said, he's an elite runner at the position as well. Incredibly tough player. Go check out the 8 overtime game versus Georgia last season. This guy just would not say die, would not quit. Love the attitude from Haynes King. The loss of Eric Singleton is not great. Lose him to Auburn in the transfer portal. However, I love the addition of FIU's Eric Rivers. He's not Eric Singleton, but he's a very solid replacement at the receiver position. The one issue for Haynes King for me, and the reason he's below the top 3 guys on this list, the passing mechanics just make me want to vomit. It works for him. Like, he's fairly accurate with the football, but the throwing motion is disgusting to watch. It's not good mechanics at all. And again, if it works, it works, but I think it limits his ability on really how much power he can put behind the football, what throws he can actually make. And so if you need a big pass play, I'm not sure this is the guy that's going to be able to get it for you. Now, if you need an 18-yard run, just throw him out there and see what happens. And that's why he is this high, is because his ability to make plays, even without that top-tier arm, is just incredible. He is so good at being an improvisational player, extending plays, making things happen, and I think even with the disgusting throwing motion, you take that kind of a player. He's been great for Georgia Tech recently, and I think he's really found a home in the system, is producing very well. One of the best quarterbacks in the ACC, so at number 4 for me on this list. At number 3 is Kevin Jennings of SMU. Redshirt junior this year, 6 foot 192, not the biggest quarterback, but this dude has a cannon. Can absolutely sling the football, get the ball into tight windows. Does make some mistakes. Last year threw 11 picks, not great. Threw 3,245 yards, 23 touchdowns, added 5 rushing touchdowns and 345 on the ground. However, of those 11 picks, he had 2 games with 3 interceptions. They kind of come in spurts, and one of them was the Penn State CFP game through 2 pick-sixes. That was tough. I don't think that is a good measure of what kind of a player this guy is. Played way better than that through a lot of the season. Took over the starting job from Preston Stone, who is now at Northwestern. Was a very, very good quarterback for most of the year, and I think playing one of the top 3 defenses in college football in that CFP environment at Beaver Stadium just wasn't ready for it, which is fair because it was his first season as a starter. I would expect him to develop. Is up and down at times. Even when SMU was winning, you saw some weak points, like the Duke game was not great. They barely beat Duke in overtime, also threw 3 picks in that game. But the highs for this guy are out of this world. The arm is crazy. When he's on time and on target, he is one of the best quarterbacks in this conference, hence the ranking at number 3, pretty obviously. And does play a little bit out of sorts at times, a little bit jerky back there. I don't really know how to describe it. It just doesn't look fluid, I think is the best way to say it. He's not really a fluid player, even when he's being on time. It's a little bit odd to watch, but it works for him, and the throws still look good. So I think if he can develop, become a little bit more settled down, erase some of the mistakes, really develop that arm, make it more accurate to add to the incredible power that he has behind it, I think he is going to be a great player for the Mustangs. So Kevin Jennings at 3 for right now. At number 2, it's Carson Beck of Miami. And I know a lot of people are hating on Carson Beck after last season at Georgia. Really took a step back, threw for 3,485 yards, 22 touchdowns, 12 picks. Did have a rushing touchdown. The 12 picks are not great. Had a lot of struggles in the clutch. Threw 3 interceptions versus Texas, even though Georgia ended up winning that game. Not something you want to be doing. The pick at the end of the Alabama game was brutal last season. And like I said, he really regressed. Had 3 games with 3 interceptions, along with Alabama and Texas, also threw 3 versus Florida. And if DJ Lagway doesn't get hurt in that game might have ended up very differently. Because if you watch the game, Aiden Warner just was not built for that moment at all. And Florida still hung with Georgia for a lot of that game. However, Carson Beck has a huge arm, great size at 6'4", 220. And if he can just get back to 2023 Carson Beck, the football IQ was really great. The processing looked really good in 2023. And I think a big part of that was in 2024, the Georgia receivers decided to play every game with Teflon covering their receiver gloves. I don't think I've ever seen that many drops from a team that was that good. The Georgia receivers flat out could not catch. Hopefully that improves for Beck at Miami. I don't know what the situation is going to be now with Xavier Restrepo and Elijah Arroyo gone, but there is still talent in that receiving room. So I think it would be hard for a team to drop the ball more than Georgia did last year, to be honest. So I think just from that, he has to get better. There is the question about how is he going to be after the UCL surgery. Does seem healthy and ready to go. So if you get 2023 Carson Beck, I think Miami is a really dangerous team this year. I just don't know how much confidence I have that he can get his own confidence back and come back and be that same player. Although if he is one of the best in college football. There's a reason this guy was a potential number 1 overall pick going into last season. And like I said, I think a combination of just the drops at Georgia, those few games where he had the 3 interception games, really bad for him. And I think part of that is just being afraid to throw the ball to the receivers because they drop it so much. So he's holding onto the ball too long, not sure where to go with it. And then when he does go somewhere, it's either dropped or picked off. So I do think he's a lot better than his last season stat line would suggest. And so he is at number 2 for me right now. And that means at number 1, it is Clemson's Cade Klubnik. And this is actually my number 1 quarterback in college football for this season, not just the ACC. I think he is the most complete quarterback in college football. There's just not a big weakness to his game. He can run extremely well. He's accurate to all levels on the field. He's on time. He's developed the ability to throw with anticipation, and the receivers around him are studs. Antonio Williams, TJ Moore, Bryant Wesco Jr. It's an elite receiving core at Clemson this season, and Cade Klubnik, I think, is about to go nuclear. The senior threw for 3,639 yards last season, 36 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, added 463 and 7 touchdowns on the ground, and he threw 3 less interceptions last season on about 50 more attempts. You love to see that development. He's getting better and better each year under Garrett Riley in this Clemson offense, and doesn't really have any elite traits, I would say, but he has a lot of very, very good ones, and that's more than enough to be one of the best, if not the best quarterback in college football. He's the most accurate quarterback in this conference and one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the country. Super reliable, always going to hit his guy. And I think he's all around incredible. He became a much more willing runner last season. And look at the Pitt game. Had a great scramble towards the end of that Pitt game that really lifted Clemson over the top in that game, really drove in the nail for that one. And he is just, I feel like I'm saying this, he's so complete. I love the tape of Cade Klubnik. I would say he's probably going to be a first-round pick in the NFL draft this season. I still think potentially a Drew Aller or a Fernando Mendoza goes ahead of him in the draft just because they have elite arms, and Cade Klubnik doesn't have that level of arm, even though his is still very solid. And like I said, he's got the wide receiver room of death and despair for opposing secondaries. They're going to be lethal this year. I love this Clemson team. The defense for Clemson is also incredible this year, led by TJ Parker, Peter Woods. And I think this is one of the most complete teams in college football. I definitely have them as one of my national championship favorites headed into 2025. And Cade Klubnik is a huge reason as to why. Like I said, he's my number one quarterback, not just in the ACC, but the entire country for this season. So Cade Klubnik tops out your list of ACC quarterbacks. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you thought of the list. If you're a fan of an ACC team, let me know where your quarterback came in on this list. Like I said, this list for the SEC and the Big Ten is already out on the channel. Big 12 should be coming sometime next week, so keep an eye out for that on the channel, and then we'll have the State of the FBS Top 25 as we get ready for college football season as well. But if you did enjoy, hit the like, hit subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time on State of the FBS.